Hello, hello, hello. Today we are going to be continuing our series on Ruth in Ruth 3. Ruth 3 takes place directly after Ruth 2. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend it. There will be a link in the description. But we start in verses 1 through 4 saying, One day, Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you, where you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked for, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying, then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do." So right here we see Naomi's plan to get Ruth a home. Because Naomi at this point probably feels bad for Ruth. Because Ruth came all this way from her homeland to come be with Naomi and help Naomi. And Ruth has done so much for her. But Naomi's scared that Ruth's going to end up alone and not have anywhere to live. So Naomi is trying to protect Ruth, just like Ruth is trying to protect Naomi. And so we see that this is Naomi's plan to get Ruth a home. And it's Ruth going to be with Boaz right after he threshes the grain into barley. And he has eaten and drinking and is winding down for the night. And she just goes and is with him. And then he'll tell her what to do from there. And we see how that happens in verses 5 through 7 saying, "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking, he was in good spirits. He went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. These verses just detail how Ruth does exactly what Naomi says, and the only difference between what Naomi tells Ruth to do and what Ruth does is that Boaz was in good spirits. He was happy, and it shows that because he is a good, honest man, and we see how Naomi's plan works out in verses 8 through 9, saying, "In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. 'Who are you?' he asked. 'I am your servant Ruth,' she said. 'Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family.'" The role of a guardian redeemer, especially at this point, was to take all of the deceased person's property and to marry their wife so that their wife wouldn't die alone, which is weird in modern day terms, but back then it was a noble thing to do because you're keeping everything they had and their wife safe from harm where they might not have anything after their death. And so after all this, Ruth just asks Boaz to be their guardian redeemer, which is a lot for Boaz to do, and it's a lot to ask of him. And it could go either way. So we see in verses 10 and 11 his reaction. "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. And all the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character." So this is the best case scenario for Ruth and Naomi right now. Boaz fully agrees, and he compliments and praises Naomi for her loyalty to Ruth and her faithfulness and her goodwill in nature and how, great she is when she is humbly asking him to fulfill his role as their guardian redeemer. And he, says that he will do anything for her because she's a woman of noble character. Because this is how Boaz is. He is a man of God, and he will fulfill his duty as their guardian redeemer, but specifically because of Ruth's goodness and generosity. But we see there's a twist in verses 12 and 13. Although it is true I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is more closely related than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good, let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning. So Boaz reveals that, yes, he is a guardian redeemer of their family, but he is not the most closely related guardian redeemer of their family. So it would be better for this other, more closely related relative to marry Ruth than for Boaz to. But if the relative doesn't do it, then Boaz is still happy to fulfill his role as guardian redeemer. And then he asks Ruth to stay because he didn't want her having to travel alone at night. It would be dangerous for her. And so then we see in verses 14 and 15, so she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, no one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor. He also said, bring me the shawl you were wearing and hold it out. When she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed the bundle on her. Then he went back to town. So Ruth stays at Boaz's house per his request. And then in the morning, she gets up and leaves bright and early. And Boaz leaves her with what it says is 6 measures of barley, just saying, don't go back empty-handed. But as we see, 6 measures of barley is a lot. It's a stupidly large amount of barley. Like, some people even theorize that the 6 measures was over-exaggerated in the story, but everything the Bible says is true because it is the Bible. So I choose to believe that Ruth was just really good at carrying barley. I mean, So we see her take home all this barley, and we see in the closing verses of this chapter Naomi's reaction when Ruth gets home in 16 and through 18, saying, when Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, how did it go, my daughter? Then she told her everything Boaz had done for her, and added, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today. So this leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger. It just shows that Ruth is back with Naomi, and Naomi says to let Boaz take care of it from here, because he's going to get it done, and we will see that in the next chapter. He gets it done quick. I mean, just like Naomi said, he does not rest until he finds the other guardian redeemer and talks to him, but that's for another chapter. So that's all for today. I really hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, watch my last 2 videos on Ruth, and the last one should be coming up today or tomorrow, sometime in there. See ya.